Yes,
good morning, Ramesh.
Morning.
In the last interview, we spoke about the formation of the ego, the sense of personal doership.
Yes.
And how life, the living or the being lived of the life started the process of frustration in certain people.
Mm-hmm.
Today I'd like to talk to you about seeking. I've heard you say that life is nothing but seeking.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. The moment a baby is born, the baby seeks his mother's breast, seeking. As the child grows, always seeking something, seeking the mother, seeking the father. So the seeking of the baby for its mother's breast is absolutely a natural thing. The baby is not seeking anything. Seeking happens. And my point, same thing continues throughout. So what do we find someone? Someone seeking money. Someone seeking fame, either as an artist or an athlete or musician or whatever. So we think we are so conditioned to think of someone seeking something. And my point is, no, there is no one truly seeking anything. Seeking happens. What kind of seeking happens depends truly not on what the ego wants. That's how we look at it. Me and the other. I am seeking what I want. But my point is, truly there is no seeker who has chosen to seek anything. Seeking happens because that is the way the body-mind organism has been programmed to seek that particular thing. In other words, nature or God or the absolute or consciousness or the energy functioning through every body-mind organism starts the seeking precisely the way that the body is programmed to seek. My point is that the whole process is impersonal. Seeking is an impersonal event happening through every body-mind organism according to the programming. So my point is, truly there is no individual seeker. Seeking is happening as part of life.
You speak about life as nothing but seeking. Do you mean when you say that seeking is the primary activity for all human objects in life?
Yes. And that there is no seeker seeking anything. Now, we say seeking money. Not necessarily. Seeking God can happen. Seeking to alleviate the pain of someone else can also happen. Why? That body-mind organism is programmed for that kind of seeking to happen. I often mention my nephew. He is a doctor. Somehow he had a special liking for me, even as a child. So in the morning, I would get up in the morning a little earlier, my habit, and he knew that. He also used to get up early, and I would sit in the rocking chair out here. And in those days, I think it was same thing. He would come and sit on my lap. Sometimes a shlok from some Upanishad or something would come up, and I would teach him that. That was the way it was, One day I asked him, I said, Mahesh, what would you like to be when you grow up? And he said straight away, I want to be a doctor. So I said, why Mahesh? Because doctors make a lot of money? A 3.5-year-old child looks me in the eye, says, no, I want to cure people. People always, everybody is sick. I want to cure people. A 3.5-year-old child. So did he really start the seeking? Or that kind of seeking was there in the body? The result of it is now that even at a young age, early 40s, he is one of the top in pediatrician. Even today, even at that high place, in the night, he doesn't take his telephone off. And even today, even at that high level, I see him going out. I know he is going out. In the middle of the night, if I am awake, I see the elevator going. Elevator coming to the second floor, I know it mid. Half a second or two, the plane goes down, the elevator. I know Mahesh is out looking after some patient. So again I see him coming back sometimes, if I'm awake at that time. I see the elevator Going up to a second floor, I said, Mahesh is back. So my point is, he is a true doctor whose main, again, no particular credit to Mahesh. More so because he is my nephew. What I'm saying is, he is a good doctor because he can't help it. Someone is not such a good doctor, he can't help it. That is my main point.
So what you're saying is that the programming defines the type of seeking that happens in each individual human object.
That is my point, yes.
You've seen over these years since you've been teaching, you must have seen thousands of spiritual seeking
Yes.
objects come through your house. Have there been any common characteristics that you've noticed in the formation and the programming of spiritual seekers?
People who have come here, you want to know what the common element is?
If you've noticed any common elements in
Yes,
the programming.
I have. Amazing confusion. Amazing confusion. It used to, I couldn't understand it. Now I know. Enormous confusion. Why is there confusion? Because at no time seeking began. And that itself is my... No one started the seeking. Normally, if you are looking for your glasses and if they're up there on the forehead, when somebody says, oh, you see, then you have found it. So, the seeking is satisfied when you have found the object you are seeking. Object you are seeking. You see. But here, knowing that the seeking has happened, again, not everywhere. How long have you been seeking? Many people, surprisingly. Ever since I can remember, Ramesh. So you mean, I said, even as a child, you knew you were looking for something, you may not have known what. You said yes. You see? So, something which has prompted the seeking, there had never been really the inclination or the wanting to ask himself, the spiritual seeker, what am I seeking? What am I seeking? And then it goes on. So my basic point is, I would like the spiritual seeker to think for a moment, what am I seeking? This morning I came across something I would like to read out.
Yes.
Interesting. I couldn't understand it. I showed it to Heiner. Hey, Heiner, that's exactly what the spiritual seeker is seeking. This is from a leaflet advertising a particular satsang by a particular teacher. Do you want to open to the totality of life, the truth of who you are? In every moment, your deepest possibility is to naturally live as boundless stillness of consciousness and the fullness and perfection of love, and to play in that as the apparent opposites of masculine and feminine expressions of life. Leaflet advertising. So I said, if I read that, I said, I will just throw it into the basket. Heiner says, no, this is what people want. You see? So this is what they are searching. And after 30 years they say, I'm frustrated. I've been meditating for 30 years or whatever. And I'm frustrated. Then I asked them, why are you frustrated? I haven't got what I was looking for. What have you been looking for? No answer. What have you been looking for? Then I tell them, according to my concept, what I've been looking for is absolutely mundane, down to earth, nothing up in the air. What you're looking for, I say, according to my, while you have to face life from moment to moment, you have no choice. Also you have no choice about what the moment is going to bring. No one, absolutely no one, could know what the next moment is going to bring. Sometimes pain, sometimes misery. That is the ground rule of this play of life. That you know. You also know, no one can know the total amount of pain and pleasure he can have during his life. That there is no question. Therefore, truly there is no question of trying to get something which happens in that moment. So if you are trying to get someone to get you to do something which will eliminate pain forever, can't be done. You see. So with this understanding, what are you looking for? So therefore what I think you are looking for and everyone is looking for is absolutely down to earth, mundane something. And that something is to be anchored in peace, tranquility, comfort, and yet face life from moment to moment because there is nothing you can do about it. So in other words, my point is, whatever any spiritual seeker is seeking truly is, in very simple terms, never to be uncomfortable with himself, never to be uncomfortable with the other, never for a moment to have to hate himself, never for a moment to have to hate anybody. In other words, the total removal of the feeling of hatred while facing life from moment to moment. So how can I face life from moment to moment without any feeling of hatred, either towards myself or towards others? Only if I am able to accept whatever happens in life, no one individual can have anything to do with it. Happening of life is an impersonal event. No one doing anything can affect anything in life. In other words, that's why I say, if I want a metaphor for what life happens, my metaphor is, life happening is a movie which has already been done. Not for 2 hours or 3.5 hours, but for a life, for eternity. It is there and in the can. Therefore, someone doing something in a limited frame, 1 hour film or 2 hour film, cannot affect what happens in the 15th reel. And we say, what can I do for something in reel number 3? And number 3 are already in the can. So my point is, I have to accept that the entire thing is already there. Therefore, my question, in such given circumstances, what do I do? You have already done it. In this metaphor of the movie, you have already done it. But in that frame, in that reel, you as a character have to do something. And you do it. But how do I know? Even as a movie character, how do I know what I'm supposed to do? Nobody has given me the script. So I said, that's not true. You have been given the script. And your script is in the programming. Your script is in the programming. So from your programming, at any moment, whatever you think you should do is your script. Therefore, if the whole movie is in the can and I'm supposed to do something, what do I do? Very simple. Do whatever you think you should do. And when I say do whatever you think you should do, obviously, put in whatever effort you have to put in order to do whatever you have to do. Having done that, it has been a lifetime of experience of everyone. Having decided to do something and having put in his best efforts, what happens later had never ever been in anybody's control. And there, as a movie character, you have done it. What do I have to do? Do whatever you think you should do. What happens later? None of your business. That the movie has already decided. Then life becomes simple. Then I don't have to worry about what is going to happen to the world. Whether the world itself is going to remain or not. The world as one planet in one solar system, in a whole universe, maybe in millions of universes. I don't know, and I can't care. So my point is, simply basic question usually comes down to, I want heaven, I want whatever, one with God. That is what I want. Basic question, in order to be one with God, what do I have to do? Answer is simple. Do whatever you want to do, knowing that whatever happens has never been in your control.
Just going back to the leaflet that you read out, Ramesh, I think everyone in this room has read similar leaflets, and they seem to be quite common. And as you pointed out, the eventual goals of them are also vague, and yet they are high goals, goals that people could aspire to. When you put your concept forth, it's so simple that for a seeker who's been seeking for 25 years to try and be one with God, he or she could easily feel cheated. Could you comment on that?
That is precisely what I'm hoping for, Mutribo. That is precisely what I'm hoping for. But what is likely to happen is, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's still involved in the world. We are not. We are above this. Therefore, Mutribo, quite frankly, the number of people who respond to this kind of a thing probably ratios 100 to 1. For one person who comes here, 100 or 1,000 fall victim to this airy comfort.
So you're saying they're falling victim to something that no one can provide.
Illusory daydreams. That's why it's become big business.
And yet, some people, particularly in the last, say, 30 or 40 years, with the advent of mind-altering drugs, have had what one could call peak experiences, strong experiences of being one with God, of feeling no separation. And consequently, they have thought that this would be a state that they could maintain permanently.
Maintain permanently, and that's where the problem is. You are one with God. You cannot remain one with God 24 hours a day. Who is going to open your mouth and feed you if you are one with God? You see? So being one with God, so long as it is an experience you want, it cannot last. Therefore, the drug or otherwise, that being one with God is an experience. That is my point. Being one with God is experience. And experience does not last forever. Having had that one experience, what happens to that presumed experiencer? I know I can be one with God. And I know that's a beautiful state. But it's gone. So what is he seeking for the rest of his life as a spiritual seeker? Again, for that experience to happen.
Right.
And the experience is momentary. experience does not last. What lasts is your role in life that has been assigned to you. Therefore, my point is, the only value of that experience is that it is possible to be one with God. And the answer is, what I still have to live my life. Therefore, the answer is, truly, I know, because I've had that experience. I'm not different from God. In fact, I cannot be different from God or consciousness or whatever, because that is all there is. So with that understanding, if I accept that understanding as an understanding and not an experience about, that is the point, you see. If I keep on hankering after that experience, the very hankering for it will keep the experience away. But if I accept that experience knowing that deep, I know I'm not different from God. So with that understanding, if I live my life, knowing if I'm not different from God, whatever I may seem to be doing cannot be anything different from God wants something to happen. Then it's a different case. Then you are no longer hankering after an experience. You are living your life as if you are one with God. Living as if I am one with God simply means witnessing whatever happens, not as my doing, but something which God or consciousness or energy is bringing out, with which truly I am not concerned.
How did this misconception begin originally, Ramesh? Because I know many people see in their gurus, in their teachers, in their sages, and the sages that have gone before, miraculous powers, a behavior that is definitely out of the normal realm of human behavior.
Yeah.
And so many people assume that when the understanding happens to them, their behavior will change. How did this misconception begin in the first place?
Did you say powers?
Powers, special behavior, they notice in their teachers, in their gurus, and the sages, differences in their behavior, differences in the way they live, sometimes including powers,
Yes.
that they assume will be theirs when the understanding happens to them.
Yes.
What you're saying is that it's much simpler than that.
And in fact, what I'm saying is, this is the temptation. The powers are the temptation. Therefore, when I say, what do you want out of spiritual seeking? Self-realization. All right? You are self-realized now. So what's the difference? Difference? Now, if I'm self-realized, I'll be able to walk on water. I'll be able to tell you exactly what is happening in different worlds. Somewhere it is raining, and I know it is so. You can check it with your meteorologist. Powers. So it is this powers which has led many seekers astray. Why has it led many seekers astray? Because that is exactly what was supposed to happen in the movie. And it is for this reason Lord Krishna has said in the Bhagavad Gita, among thousands of people, there is one seeker. Among the many seekers, there is hardly one who knows me in principle. And what is that knowing me in principle? Knowing me in principle is knowing that the me, God, consciousness, is all there is. Therefore, if I think I have powers, I have understood nothing. So when that me among many seekers suddenly realizes that all this is part of the illusion of life, And then the basic point is, I am a movie character. Character in there. And as a character, the character cannot have aims and ambitions, except as a character. So I, as a living character in this movie, am supposed to be doing something. So I keep on doing it. I keep on doing it without ever feeling that I am doing it. That is all. And when I am doing it, then I know that if I am not doing it, who is doing it? God is doing it. Consciousness or energy or whatever we call the source is immaterial. So the understanding is, whatever I may seem to be doing, it is not me doing it. Whatever someone else may seem to be doing, it is not he doing it. It is a happening. And all I can do is to witness whatever is happening with the understanding that it is only God producing whatever has to be produced according to a cosmic law. The result of that is acceptance. What is the result of the acceptance? Peace of mind. Peace of mind. There is nothing I have to do. Therefore, I am not responsible for anything. No one is responsible for anything. So, in very briefly, the attitude of the sage is, he witnesses whatever is happening, knowing, absolutely knowing, it is stupid to blame anyone. If you ask me briefly, what is the attitude of the sage when living? As simple as this. Whatever is happening, and I and the society may give it a label, good or bad. No one is doing anything. With the result that in life, it would be stupid of me to blame anybody. So, very briefly, in focus, what is the attitude of the sage? Not to blame anybody. In focus, what is the attitude of the sage? Never to blame anybody. It would be stupid to blame anybody.
Ramesh, according to your concept, there's no one seeking anything, it's all happening. And yet, in the spiritual world, very often we come across a sense in spiritual seekers that they're special, that they're involved in a seeking that is somehow higher than someone seeking for money and seeking for fame. Could you comment on that?
Yeah, that is what I'm saying. That is because the seeker thinks whatever is sought by anybody is somebody seeking something. Whereas my basic understanding is, as we started this talk, no one is a seeker. No one seeks anything. Seeking is happening through a particular body. That kind of seeking is happening through a particular body, for which that body mind has been born with that design and programming. So if that basic fact is not acceptable or doesn't even strike one, then the spiritual seeker starts his seeking. I am seeking God or whatever. Others are seeking money matters, money or fame or whatever. Therefore, as a spiritual seeker, I am on a much, much higher level than the others. And that is where, and ultimately, what is this? According to me, an ultimate aim of spiritual seeking is to be rid of the sense of personal doership. And here the spiritual seeker, who thinks he is the spiritual seeker, starting his spiritual seeking with a bloated ego, with a bloated sense of personal doership.
So from the point of view of the source, God, the functioning of manifestation does not recognize any hierarchy of seeking.
Absolutely. Because Why Mutribo? Because there can be no hierarchy at all. How can there be hierarchy among different robots? How can there be hierarchy among robots? Moment we speak of hierarchy, the personal element comes in.
And yet I have heard you speak
Yes.
of the seekers, the spiritual seekers who come and see you, as being fortunate. What do you mean by that?
Who is fortunate? That entity is fortunate. That ego, who considers himself a separate entity in life, and he has to, in order to live his life. There is no question that an entity who has been physically sick or things have not been happening, he is generally an unsuccessful, physically sick man. The entity may know it, but the entity still has the feeling that he is sick. You see? So therefore the entity who feels sick or frustrated has to live his life as an entity. He cannot not do. So the only way a sick man, unsuccessful man, if he happens to be a seeker, and there again I must make it clear, if he thinks he may not even think he is a seeker, but the understanding has happened. In such a case, in fact, I know a friend of my mother's, her life was amazing. First, her husband died. Then, one by one, all her children died. She was left alone in the world. I can't imagine a more disastrous situation. And yet, somehow, there was the understanding. So, when she came to visit my mother commiserated me. I mean, you have had such a terrible life. And then she said, my mother noticed, it doesn't see it, I can't see it in your face. So, I'm not a physical seeker, not a spiritual seeker. Her answer was, yes, God has taken away everything from me, but He has given me one thing, faith in Him and courage to face life. Similar, I often quote the incident where the missionary Staines and his two sons were locked up and the terrorists set fire to the car. Almost the next day or the day after, some journalist went to this bereaved widow and bereaved mother and asked her, and I've always thought it a stupid question. The journalist asked him, the winner of something, how do you feel? How can he fail? So she went and asked, how do you feel? And she said, she understood what the journalist means is, if I were a journalist, I would say, I'm very, very sorry what happened to you, or very glad what happened to you, but is there something you would like me to accept as your comment? So her comment was, my husband and my two sons, according to the will of God, came to the end of their lives. I was so moved. And therefore they are dead. What better instance can you have about faith in God? Faith in God. Whereas, when people say, I have faith in God, often it amuses me. You know the story I said about faith in God? Faith in God is someone who thought he was an enlightened man. He used to say, I have faith in God. So once there was a flood, and water kept rising. And this man went from upper story to upper story. In this story, I don't know why he went up. If it's faith in God, why didn't you stay on the ground floor? Anyway, the story says he went up and he sat on the roof. Then a boat came along. He said, wouldn't you like to? I can take you across. No, I'll sit here. I have faith in God. Another boat came. Said the same thing. Then a helicopter came and he said, I don't think they will find anybody else. I'll drop you a ladder, climb up. No, I have faith in God. Then of course he was drowned. So when he met God, he said, God, I had faith in you. You know I had faith in you. Why did you let me drown? So he said, look, I sent you 2 boats and a helicopter. You didn't take the help I sent you. You see, you didn't take the help I sent you. That's faith in God. And recently, a couple of years ago, a very powerful politician, local politician, his wife had a fatal accident on her way to Pune. And then this politician says she went to a particular temple, very famous temple, immediately before she left for Pune. And yet she died. I have lost my faith in God. I have lost. So when I read that, I said, poor God. He's lost a powerful politician's faith. What will he do now?
Ramesh, I think one of the ideas that many spiritual seekers come across, and it's an idea that many teachers put forward, that somehow spiritual seeking represents the end of the evolutionary road.
Yes.
That somehow all life
Yes.
is headed in this direction.
Yes.
Is there any truth in that?
Well, it is a concept, but I see no reason why we shouldn't accept that concept. What does the concept say? The basis of that concept is the happening of something called self-realization is an evolutionary process. So that evolutionary process has been happening, all right. But that I should accept that process as I am one of the vehicles through which the evolutionary process is happening.
So impersonal.
Again, see, so if I accept that it's an evolutionary process, what right have I got to accept that evolutionary process is going to stop with me? I may be one, then after me, there may be 200 people through which the evolutionary process can happen. But this evolutionary process is supposed to happen, to end with me.
In your experience with spiritual seekers, have you noticed any common elements within their destiny that starts them on that course of seeking for a spiritual goal?
Sure. The design and programming in that body-mind organism has reached a point where they're very close to the final end.
From the point of view of that body-mind organism,
Yeah.
what are the telltale signs that he or she would recognize as being at close to the end of that process?
The acceptance happening. No one is a doer in life. Beginning, in most cases, with that acceptance being intellectual. How can it not? So I've always been saying, all I have asked for anybody who comes here is to listen totally. Listen totally. After that, let your questions come. And after that, you yourself decide whether the concept is acceptable to you or not. So here again the concept is, no one is a doer. Then I keep repeating, it is still the ego, Mutribo, who is the seeker. Make no mistake. The ego as a separate entity wants self-realization or whatever. Then it is understood that self-realization is going to make me feel never uncomfortable with myself, never uncomfortable with others. That can happen only if I am able to accept no one is a doer. How can that acceptance of no one is a doer going to bring me that feeling of being anchored in peace and harmony, never hating myself, never hating anybody else? That happens only when I am truly able to accept no one is a doer. Then that brings me that feeling of being anchored in peace for a very simple reason. As soon as I accept no one is a doer, no one is to blame. Therefore, whatever I might have thought I had done, knowing that I didn't, and now knowing whatever I thought somebody did something, now knowing nobody can do anything, the result is, at one stroke, the load of shame and guilt, pride and arrogance for my deeds, and hatred and malice, jealousy, envy, fear about the other, that entire load is removed. That entire load is removed. And there have been not many cases when in 3 or 4 days, when they realize that an enormous load has been lifted. And still it could be an intellectual acceptance. So what is the intellectual acceptance? Being able to accept no one is a doer relieves me of that massive load of guilt and shame, hatred and malice towards the other. By one acceptance, no one is to blame. And that's massive. That's a massive benefit I get. Why should I not accept that concept? You see what I mean? In many cases, intellectual acceptance is not so, it is very difficult, yes, but even so, not so difficult. Why? Because it appeals to one's reason, it appeals to one's logic. The only thing it does not appeal to is that very strong conditioning of doership. But intellectually it is accepted. So, that intellectual acceptance ultimately has to be total. And that is a process in time. So the acceptance intellectually is not so difficult. So in that process, a real handicap, a real obstruction is when a flip-flop happens. Understanding is there, suddenly something happens, you blame yourself or you blame somebody. And then you realize that the understanding was only intellectual. That intellectual understanding does not stand the test of practical life. And there is a tremendous depression. I know it, and yet why have I blamed somebody? That is what I call a flip-flop. Many times, quite a lot of time, understanding is there. But when I need it most, I fall a victim and blame someone or blame myself. So the happening of that that flip-flop has to happen in that process most of the time. And that is where the real understanding comes in. Even that flip-flop I didn't do. So if that flip-flop has to happen, let it happen. That's one. Or you get involved in that flip-flop. God knows how long I'll have to suffer that flip-flop. What is the use of my understanding? Depression. There again, it is the destiny of the seeker, how quickly he realizes that it's no use fighting the flip-flop. The more I fight with the flip-flop, the more the happening of the flip-flop receives sustenance from my involvement, and the sooner I accept the flip-flop as part of the evolutionary process, the quicker it is likely to happen.
Ramesh, one of the most well-known spiritual seekers in human history, Buddha, told his disciples that life is suffering. What did he mean by that?
Life is suffering, and he added, enlightenment is the end of suffering. Life is suffering, and enlightenment is the end of suffering. He didn't say life is suffering, end of life is the end of suffering. He didn't. In other words, that means if you want the suffering to end, you have to wait until you die, unless you commit suicide. So he said, life means suffering, and enlightenment means the end of suffering. So my interpretation of that is, the Buddha was no fool. And yet the Buddha said, life is suffering. Samsara is dukkha. Nirvana is the end of suffering. Nirvana is enlightenment. So what is the kind of suffering which Buddha meant when he obviously knew no power on earth can remove the pain the suffering which I have to suffer from moment to moment? You see? So obviously, enlightenment is the end of suffering did not mean end of the pain happening in the moment at any time. So what is the suffering which the Buddha meant? And my interpretation of this, the suffering which the mind creates for that individual, not for the world. The suffering which the mind creates for that entity, for that individual, because of his sense of personal doership. So as soon as this sense of personal doership is totally annihilated, the suffering created by the sense of personal doership, which is specifically hating myself for something I have done, hating someone else. So my point, my interpretation is, the suffering which Buddha meant, which persists in life and the enlightenment ends, is hatred. Hatred is the suffering. Hatred for myself, hatred for the other. So my interpretation of life is hatred means life is suffering means life is hatred for me, hatred for the other, sometime or the other. So that is the suffering which self-realization ends. And what is self-realization? According to my concept, self-realization truly is nothing more than the realization. Nothing happens because it is done by someone. With that acceptance, I see absolutely no reason either to be proud of anything or ashamed of anything that happens through my body-mind, nor to hate anyone for what happens through his body-mind. This needs some clarification. I repeat, the sage is not like a cabbage or a stone. The body-mind organism still responds to what happens in the world. If the sage sees something which brings tears to his eyes, the sage sees something humorous, laughter. The sage hears the news that an action which has happened through his body-mind organism is honored by society, is accepted by society, and an honor is confirmed on this entity. The receiving of the news of that honor will certainly produce a sense of pleasure. But that pleasure will not be accompanied by pride when I know truly it is not my doing. Similarly, if an action happens which is not accepted by society, and even they decide that I should be punished, then there will be a regret in the body-mind organism. But in the ego, there will be no question of shame or guilt. So my point is, the body-mind organism, so long as it is alive, of the sage, will continue to respond to what happens in life. Exactly as the body of the sage will respond if he is seeing a movie. In other words, whether he is seeing the movie on the screen or he is seeing the movie of life on the screen of consciousness, the body-mind organism will continue to respond. And the response may be anger, horror, fear, pleasure, laughter, whatever. But whatever the reaction in the body-mind organism will not be accompanied either by pride or by guilt.
I've heard you say, Ramesh, that at the core of all the organized religions, the same basic concept is there, thy will be done.
Yes.
Do you see any role, or what is the relationship that you see between organized religion and spiritual seeking?
Organized religion has happened so that what Lord Krishna referred to as thousands of miserable seekers should happen.
Can I take that as a condemnation of organized religion?
But who did it? Who did it? God did it. Why? Because it was necessary. In the movie, that is life. And one point I would like to make about religion is, as you say, the basis of it is the same. Thy will be done. Inshallah. You are the doer, you are the experience. Nothing can happen unless it is your will. Hindu. All three the same thing. So if that is acceptable to some, and that is their destiny, then the misery of the seeker will not be there. So how much misery the seeker suffers? Again, his destiny. And if the destiny of some seeker is not to suffer so much, then you can take it that suffering might have happened in the earlier lives in the course of the evolution.
You use the term miserable seeker a lot. What is the fundamental reason for the misery of a seeker?
The seeker does not know what he is seeking. That is the misery. If the seeker realizes that wanting or seeking my pain to stop always, stupid. That I cannot do. Therefore, what do I want to stop? But if that itself is not realized, and if the seeker at that level wants to go from one teacher to another teacher, pain in this life should stop. That seeker at that level will continue to visit temples, continue to try to bribe God, give donations to the temple, and when the donations do not bring the effect, then, oh, that may be because I didn't visit Tirupati. That is the misery of the seeker. Not to know exactly what he wants.
But even when the spiritual seeker has defined what it is that he
Yes.
wants,
Yes.
doesn't he come up against the next problem that could make him miserable, that he knows it's not within his power to get it?
Yes. If it is not within his power to get it, if that is truly acceptable, then what can he do? And that is precisely the point in that quite famous story of a disciple of Lao-tzu, the Zen master. They call it Zen master, but I think Taoism, but basically the same. This pupil of Lao-tzu went to him with his face shining with the light of victory. He bowed down to Lao-tzu and said, Master, I've got it. I have got it. Lao-tzu placed his hands on his shoulders and he said, Son, you have not got it. He went away depressed. Then he came back after some time, and when I'm telling the story, if you are not listening with a total, if the true listening is not total, while I'm narrating the story, if the listening is not total, the question will arise, how long? So therefore, if you're listening totally, it doesn't matter when he came back. But he did come back after some time, fell at the master's feet and said, Master, it has happened. You see. So then the Lao-tzu knew. So he took him up, embraced him, and he said, now tell me what happened. He said, that you told me that I haven't got it, I accepted as total truth. But I knew with equal certainty as the truth that I had done everything possible that I could have done. You see? So, he said, I stopped doing anything. And I just went on. And then I suddenly realized I had stopped doing everything. And yet life was going on more or less as before. And then it happens. The realization was, I have not doing anything, I have stopped doing anything, and yet life went on.
So would that be your recommendation to spiritual seekers who've been engaged for maybe many, many years in a sincere and yet possibly confused
Yes.
search for something that they've been told is possible for them to find?
Yes.
Would your recommendation be to simply stop?
No, my recommendation would be accept whatever is in the moment. And if in that acceptance, part of that acceptance is that something should change. As part of that acceptance, then do whatever you think you should do. And having done it, accept what is. Accepting what is does not mean living with that feeling something is not right. Something is not right, the feeling is part of what is. So complete that what is, do whatever you like to do. Having done it, then you accept what is. And thereafter, just witness whatever is happening, not as anybody is doing, but as something which simply has to happen. In effect, it means let life flow. Don't blame anybody for what is. Let life flow. Don't blame anybody neither yourself nor anybody else, for what is in the moment. That would be my recommendation.
Okay, Ramesh. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're most welcome.